Hi everyone, welcome back. Josh Beatar and Alex Goldwood from the stands, and today we're very luckily joined by a man making his PFL debut very, very soon. Kai Wu. Kai, thank you very much for the time. We very much appreciate it, mate. First things first, how are things with you?
Great, can't complain. Training's getting tough. Preparations are underway. The preparation, like it feels like I got to fight around the corner, so everything's tightening up and really sore and really tired, but it feels good.
Yeah, definitely. Well, first things first, Ben. For me, I'm very interested in this relationship you have with obviously Mark Zuckerberg, and I'm sure you've probably spoken about it multiple times. But for me, I've got to know sort of how did you and Mark first end up becoming, training partners and friends, and then on that being training partners, how have you seen him develop as a mixed martial artist throughout your time with him?
Well, I think it's like with anyone. Like if you train with a teacher and student over time, if you didn't like the student or if you didn't like the teacher, right, you would just leave. So I think you find a gym that you like, you find training partners that you enjoy, and you kind of develop a relationship through time when both people see eye to eye on things or maybe just vibe with each other very well.
Yeah.
So I think that's just in general, like just a principle of how people conduct, how professional I try to be,
Yep.
how nice the other person is. It's like we get along, and then the development is just the byproduct of kind of enjoying each other's presence and being around each other. So
Hmm.
it's really cool. I think it's very surreal at times still.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just kind of look at the cool thing about martial arts is there's it's funny because there's two things. There's no equal. It's paradoxical, but there's no equal in martial arts. Like if you're really good in jujitsu or your physical attributes is what sets you apart from the competition, then you're better. But then at the same time, in different aspects of life, you could be a CEO, you could be just a hobbyist, you could be whoever. When you get on that mat, we're all the same. You know what I mean? Like you become
Yeah.
a student of the game. So I think that's what's really cool about martial arts and how it brought us kind of together. So I would say martial arts is what brought us together, and then just kind of training and liking MMA and jujitsu and all that other stuff is what keeps us continuing forward.
Yep.
Definitely. So, Kai, walking me back then, can you sort of talk us through how you began your journey as a mixed martial artist? What is your sort of, how did you sort of become involved in martial arts?
So it all started when I was around, like I think it was like 9. I kind of got bullied in middle school and high school. Just around it was around that time, 9 to 12. I did jujitsu. It was with my brother-in-law Dave Camarillo. He was the head coach of AK at the time, the head grappling coach. So he had fighters like John Fitch, Josh Koscheck, Cain Velasquez. So it was really
Yeah.
cool seeing those guys kind of coming up. So he was like, "Hey, you should do jujitsu," and I was like, "I mean, I'm not really into it, but sure, let's try it." And I was always kind of on and off with jujitsu, and then I started realizing through many different life examples, like how much fun it started being, and also how good it kind of was for the body. Like wow, this is great. You know what I mean? So then I
Mm.
just started training more and more from there, and that's kind of how I got into martial arts. But I never thought I would be a pro fighter. To this day, I still sometimes go like, man, this is very funny. I never thought I was going to be a pro fighter or a pro athlete. I was either going to be like, I was like, growing up, I watched a lot of military movies. Like
Yeah.
I watched Predator, with
Yeah. Yeah.
Arnold,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I watched like Terminator, all this other stuff. So I was like, I'm either going to be a cop or go to the military, be a doctor. I don't know, very stereotypical, like my mom and
Yeah.
dad, kind of. So I never thought I'd be a pro athlete or a pro fighter, and just kind of worked out.
Yeah, definitely. Kai, last thing for me about Mark, I just want to know there was being so close with him, and seeing him, I'd imagine most days throughout the week in training and that sort of stuff. There was such big talk, months ago with him and Elon Musk and that sort of, competitive stuff. Obviously I don't know if that's going to happen now with Elon, but do you see has his perspective changed at all? Do you think we will see him step foot in a cage somewhere against someone else?
That's up to him. Whatever he wants, it's up to him. Like if he wants to fight tomorrow, shoot, I'm packing up my bags and getting ready for a fight tomorrow.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's completely up to him. And with the Elon thing, I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to like put more fuel to
Of
the
course.
fire when
Yep.
there is none. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think we're kind of past that.
Mhm.
Mark wants to probably, if he wanted to fight, he'd always want to do it in the most professional manner.
Yeah.
Not like at someone's house or something like that. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
if something were to happen, it's up to Mark if he wants to fight or not. As of right now, he loves training every day. He loves martial arts, and his last post that he made on Threads about maybe competing in the future and whatnot. I think that's where his mind is at. But it's completely up to him. I don't want to speculate on it. But with the Elon thing, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said recently, that you should probably fight 3 to 4 times a year. Is that more about, progressing your career, or is it, sort of about, managing those pre-fight nerves and, feeling comfortable in the cage? Is that sort of why, you'd be looking to fight 3 to 4 times a year?
Both. Like the more often you fight, the less nervous you get. And also, the more you fight, the more your career progresses because our career doesn't really go anywhere unless we fight, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't think I'm going to hit 4 fights a year, but if you set like a 2-fight goal a year, you're probably going to get 1. You know what I mean? So you want to aim. You always want to aim higher. So I'm like 4 or 5 fights a year, and I pulled that off before my first year as a pro. I pulled it off, and in a way, it's easier when you're not signed to a big promotion because you get to just, you know what I mean? Like you get to just fight like here really quick, and then maybe next month you go there. But with PFL, their system's so unique, and they don't have a 35 division yet, right? But like if I was like, hey, can I get a fight on the show, like a showcase bout on one of your guys' challenger, or up and coming, whatever. I'm sure they have tons of fight cards every year. I'm like, can I just get on one of those? Can I get on one of these? I'm sure they'll be more than happy to keep me active. And there's no shortage of fighters right now, especially with how hot MMA is getting. And on top of that, there's a little bit of a target on my back because they're like, oh, you're the guy that trains Mark, love him or hate him. They want a piece of that. They want to say they beat someone like that has a name associated with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm getting a lot of that. And it's kind of funny because I was like, oh, I never thought that would be I never thought that would help me get fights easier, like now before it's like, why would I want to fight Kai? He's a nobody. Now it's like, we want to fight him because he sucks and trains Mark. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't expect that. So it's kind of funny to see the dynamic shift so quickly. And but yeah, staying active, I don't think it's going to be an issue. And also, it forces you to stay disciplined year round. Imagine you're a fighter. You're like, I'm only going to have 2 fights a year. You kind of slack off here and there because you're like, I'm just going to work through the holidays, and then when I do get a fight, I'll get in shape. Whereas you get 3 to 4 fights a year, that's 1 fight every quarter. You got to constantly stay ready. You got to constantly stay healthy. So like today, after training, I'm a little bit sore. I got to be on point with my recovery because I'm not just thinking about this next fight. I'm thinking about what about the fights after that, win or lose. How am I going to navigate through my career with these injuries? I can't have these. So you heal up, you rest up, you are sharp mentally. I think you're focused, but at the same time, you do need a break. So I think it's good to get in, especially with the way the fighting game is. It's either everything happens at once or nothing at all. So I think you got to strike while the iron is hot. Fight, and then take a little bit of time off, and then keep fighting again, as opposed to fight every now and then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Speaking on fighting, Kai, I know you have your debut scheduled, in the next month and a half, coming up very soon. I don't know if it's been announced yet, but I do know the date, but I don't want to say it in case it hasn't been officially announced. But what are the feelings like heading into a debut for the PFL and making your debut for them with an organization that I think is really starting to stand out and become, obviously everyone's looking at the UFC and that's fair enough. They are who they are, but I think the PFL is a close second now. I think they're doing wonderful things, and like you said, there is no 135-pound division at the moment. But would that be something that you would look to, push for in the future?
Yeah, I think so. With that, let me answer the 35 pound division talk. I don't think it's a matter of like, is it going to happen? It's like when. And I'm pushing for, obviously, they have me scheduled for a 35 fight. If they weren't interested in that, I don't think they would have brought me along. But
Of course.
I think eventually they're going to get there, and they're already kind of making their moves. So I'm going to leave it up to them on when they want to officially announce something or continue to feel it out, because the 35 division is hot in all promotions. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the toughest divisions out there. So I think that's an interesting business move on them. They probably know a lot more than we do with the numbers and all that stuff. So hopefully within the next year or so, you know what I mean? Like year and a half, maybe they'll have it. Now with that being said, like I think they are, like you said, they are making a lot of interesting moves and whatnot. I feel like every fight, win and loss I've had, it kind of led me here. So instead of being as excited as like imagine like your first fight ever, you're going to be really nervous. And then imagine your 10th fight for a title. Now you're going to be like, man, I've had 10 fights now. You're still nervous, but you're like, I've done this walk before,
Yeah.
So I fought for other shows before where they're quite big, or I've headlined. I mean, I think before this fight, I've probably headlined 6 of my 11 pro fights. You know what I mean? I was either the main event or co-main event. So I'm like, oh shoot, that's a lot. So I think I'm used to kind of like a crowd and being a little bit nervous and this and that. So now it's more like I've taken all those experiences. I've kind of learned. Now, how do we use the data that we have and make sure it's on point this time? How do we make sure we execute this time? And we got to come out with a win. I don't think this is the toughest fight of my career, but I'm not saying my opponent isn't tough at all. I'm just saying out of all the guys I've fought, going into with injuries or this and that, as of right now, I think this is the most important fight of my career. But in terms of the toughest, I think I fought a guy that was like way taller than me before, like 5'11", maybe 6 foot even. And I'm just like, all right, that was a little bit more, that was a little bit harder of a stylistic matchup. Whereas this one, I love it. This one, I feel like his style is what people think my kryptonite is. And I'm honored to be able to share that cage with someone like that who thinks, they could push me and level it. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's very like scary. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was the decision to go with the PFL, was it purely for the activity that, the tournament system kind of offers, or, were there other reasons for going with the PFL?
Well, at the rate that they're going, they're really looking like the second biggest organization in the world right now. Like they're really accelerating. And I think it was not just one thing, but it was also like how cool they were with doing business talk. Like the way they were talking was just like, hey, we're up front. Here's this, here's that. What do you want to do? I'm like, I want to bring you guys potentially to Asia. I want to represent a wave of Asian MMA, just because I feel like it's not as developed, like it's a wild west over there still, certain organizations do great out there, but I just mean, like, I just want to like, I think if anyone knows anything about economics, it's like competition is good. You know what I mean? So like a rising tide raises all ships. And I think bringing them in would make everyone, better. Like, I'm not saying I'm the best MMA fighter from Asia or anything like that. I'm actually saying there's a lot more undiscovered talent. Like if you guys think I can fight, wait till you see some of these other guys. They're like 10 times naturally more gifted and better than me. And it would be a waste, and it'd be very sad to see them not fulfill their full potential in a fight career. So that's why I want to shed light on these guys, and I want to, like just open up new doors for them, essentially. You know what I mean? So I thought PFL, the fact that they cared about that and like was interested in talking to me about that, I was like, great. That's really cool, because a lot of these promotions, not to like throw anyone names, I'm just saying in general, not dissing anyone, but like a lot of promotions just go, how many tickets can you sell for me? How many views can you get from me? Whereas these guys it felt like they're investing in me a little bit more. And not only just with me, but when you kind of look at what they did with Shane Burgos, Francis, you can't help but notice they're willing to spend money on guys that they really want to promote. And, it's business, right? It's not like playing favorite, but it's cool to see them do that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, man, last couple of questions from us. We won't keep you too long today, but was actually a good point that you were talking about, with the Asian MMA, because that was one of my last questions for you was, having that strong connection to Taiwan. I know your parents were born there, but you were born in the States. But I know you seem like a very proud person of their culture, which is always wonderful to see. And how much does that mean to you to represent your Taiwanese roots and really put Taiwan and Asia as a whole on the map for MMA going forward?
I think it's great. I think it just, like I was saying, I don't think it's about, oh, I'm the best one. It's more like, guys, you guys have no idea how many animals, beasts are out there in a respectful, manner. Like, there's some awesome fighters out there. They just don't have that opportunity. I feel like when you have privilege, or when you are in a certain position I worked extremely hard to get here. I think it'd be a waste it'd be very unfortunate if I just was very selfish and kept everything myself instead of spread the wealth and share it and grow. And I'm like, man, I'm in this position. I remember when I was not a pro fighter and I was at a very early in my career, I was like, man, I wish someone helped me out. I didn't really get much push like that. I didn't have any connections to any big names.
Yeah.
Like I just met Mark like last year. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have a Mark really early on in my career. I didn't have a huge team. I didn't have this guy, that guy. My brother-in-law left AKA. There's no connections to fighting anymore. There's just jujitsu. So you know what I mean? So there's no matchmakers, nothing. So I'm always thinking of like trying to look out and build on the sport, because the last thing I want is to be a guy that fought and then no one remembers you after you're done fighting. It's not even about leaving a legacy. It's more about like, I mean, who's the 1984 Olympic, gold medal in boxing? You know what I mean? Like,
couldn't tell you. Yeah.
So it's not even about leaving a legacy or winning these medals. It's more about like, how much difference can I make, or how much change can I make? You know what I mean? So that's kind of like another goal of mine.
Yep.
Yeah. So touching on that, and leading into my last question, you said that, for you, it's a little bit more about, what sort of difference can you make? For you, then, does that mean down the line, that you, that you want to have, maybe some gyms open where you can bring in some, the next generation of mixed martial artists? Is that sort of the goal then for you, maybe after fighting?
Yeah, it's really funny because a couple years ago, it's like during COVID, I was thinking, I'm like, man, I might need to put all my eggs in one basket, right? And then now with the relationships I've built, and then like the PFL and all this other stuff, I'm like, before the problem was I had nothing going on for me. Even though I fought in Taiwan, I had a 4 fight win streak. It was really cool, but COVID cooled everything down. And then now I'm back in this position where I'm like, I have everything, and the problem is I have so many things going on. It's like you can't go wrong with choosing one. But now it's like you're at a buffet, you know what I mean? So like, what do you want to eat? There's nothing wrong here. So I feel like I'm very lucky, very fortunate. And I'm trying to outsource some guys to help me with this, help me with that, help me with the gym, you know what I mean? I'm finding guys way smarter than me because, fighting, it takes all your energy and time, So yeah, definitely gyms are definitely in play. A lot of other opportunities that you guys might not even be like, that has nothing to do with fighting, but it's like, yeah, but what will happen is if we get more viewers in general, if we get more viewers in general, I think it'll show, like the numbers will trickle in, you know what I mean? Like you don't make money off MMA fighters, you make money off, the people that watch MMA, you know what I mean? And I think that'll, and to change it in a different light, especially over there in Asia where there's tons of money and untapped market to be getting into. So yeah, I definitely think gyms are definitely a part of the plan.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. Well, Kai, thank you so much for joining us today, man. We really appreciate it. Wishing you all the best leading up to your PFL debut. I know that we're absolutely excited to see it, and we'd love to talk to you again in future, man.
Appreciate it. Anytime. I'm down anytime you guys are. Thank you guys for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Kai. Appreciate it, man.